Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here today to talk about a movie that I just watched, and I don't really do this as much lately. This is just one of those movies where I felt like it's worth talking about, which I feel like I have an obligation to talk about those movies because there's so many times on this channel where we review things and we don't really know if they're going to be worth talking about. We don't really know if there's going to even be much to say. Like that West Side Story, there really wasn't much to say. I really liked it, and that's about it. There wasn't much else besides that. But this movie that I just watched, I could probably talk about this movie for a whole hour. And, usually in the past in this channel, when I wasn't doing daily videos, I would just kind of, I'll talk about it at the end of the year maybe. But now I kind of feel more like I want to talk about it. I want to do a review. And this movie in particular, I've been wanting to watch this movie since last week. And it's called Betrayed. It's from 1988. The reason I wanted to watch this movie is because I rewatched one of the better Oliver Stone movies, which is Talk Radio. And I was watching it so that I could reference it for my shot list that I was working on. And I was thinking, that movie was very good in terms of how it was shot, partially, it was a very good movie. I'd highly recommend Talk Radio. And at the end of that movie, this radio guy, he dies, the radio host, spoiler alert. And I was wondering, is this based on a true story or something? Because I really felt like I wish that he would have succeeded. Because in a lot of these Oliver Stone movies, they end where the good guy succeeds. JFK, he doesn't necessarily succeed. In fact, he loses the case at the end of the movie. But he doesn't get killed. They listed at the end of that movie like hundreds and hundreds of people got killed because they knew something that the government didn't want them to reveal about the assassination. But he didn't. He died of cancer years later, And then Wall Street, at the end of that movie, what was that guy, Charlie Sheen? He's going to go to jail, but he still takes down Gordon Gekko and chooses good. And then Platoon, Charlie Sheen escapes the war at the end, from what I remember, I think. I've only seen that movie once. But in general, in Oliver Stone's movies, the hero always wins. And Talk Radio is one of the few exceptions. And so I researched the true story, and I found out that there was a true story. There was this Jewish radio host, and he was killed by this neo-Nazi or white supremacist group called The Order, which is a really queer sounding, because these types of people, all these types of people, even conspiracy theorists like me, a lot of people, they talk about New World Order. The New World Order is bad. And so why would a white supremacist group want to be called The Order? That's just so retarded, it's not even funny. But we haven't even begun to talk about these retarded people in this movie, these fucking terrorists, these disgusting people. But anyways, I found out there's actually another movie, and that's this movie, where it was based on that real event. And so this movie opens off with seeing that radio host, and they did not really do a good job with that, with showing this radio host. He seemed very tame and very corporate. The stuff that he was saying was, I guess, edgy for the times, but he really didn't feel like a real like shock jock, like the guy in talk radio did, Barry Champlain, and then he gets killed, he gets assassinated right out in the open. And it's actually kind of interesting because it contrasts with the end of the movie, it parallels the end of the movie a little bit, because at the end of the movie something very similar happens, just in a different way. So this movie, it's all about this woman, and she is pretending to be a combine driver in the South so that she can get close to this farmer guy. And he's just a regular, everyday American farmer. And he's played by Tom Berenger. And so that's how you know that he's not just an American farmer. You know that he's got some weird shit going on, in some way or another. You just look at his face and you're like, yeah, he's up to no good for sure. He's not the good old boy American farmer like Bob the Builder or something. He's got something going on. He's got, like, I don't know, he's got like a shrine in some room, or he's got like a fetish of some weird kind, like, I don't know, but like he's got something going on. And right off the bat, I really liked how at first you're not really sure what's going on. It's just like, oh, that's just this nice young couple and they're so nice together. And then all of a sudden you see that she's an FBI agent and that she has infiltrated this group by being with him, and that she's there to get information on who killed this radio host, because they think that these guys did it. These farmers, these guys who hang out with the main character, the romantic lead. I hesitate to call him the romantic lead, though, because he's such an evil piece of shit. And right off the bat, too, she immediately sleeps with him. And all the while, her boss is the dad from Home Alone. And he is probably my least favorite character in the whole movie, besides her, I guess. I mean, both him and her, they kind of suck in a lot of ways, but then I also like them in other ways. But like her boss is just terrible. He's so sleazy and kind of ugh. I mean, he plays the part perfectly of this FBI guy that, he's just using everyone. And he doesn't really care about anyone except for himself and getting what he needs to get the job done. And he is in love with the main character. And it's really strange because they really don't play into that very much in the whole movie. Like they start off where he's like, I really like you, And apparently they had a relationship before and she ended it. And it's like, yeah, I can see why. I mean, he needs Catherine O'Hara. He doesn't need Debra Winger. He needs that redheaded woman who's gonna go, Kevin, and just smack herself in the face and fall over. So, anyways, she sleeps with this guy. This is one of my issues with the movie. And in fact, I came up with a good tagline for the movie, because keep in mind, she is here to investigate these people. She is not here to fraternize and give them, orgies and, BJs and shit. But she sleeps with this guy right away. And I thought, you know what? You know what would be the perfect tagline for this movie? Here we go. She knew he was probably a psychopathic white supremacist, a part of a terrorist organization, and she decided to sleep with him anyways. And that is exactly what she does. I mean, because she loves him. She falls in love with him. She thinks he's hot shit because he's a farm guy. He's a country boy. You know how all these people on these dating apps, they all have these bios where they're like, I'm looking for a country boy. I'm looking for a countryman who goes mudding and fishing and hunting and stuff like that. I want a manly man from the South. And so she falls in love with this guy. I mean, you can tell too, like, he's the type who abuses his children in more ways than one. You can just tell all these things about him, but she falls in love with him. And the only reason that it works a little bit is because these actors are so good. Tom Berenger, he is a fantastic actor. I mean, I was so into this movie just because of these two actors' performances. They were so good. And, he's perfect. I mean, even though, and this movie really shows too, by the way, you can have the shittiest script or just the most cliche, corny script on the planet. But if you have Tom Berenger and Debra Winger, you're going to have a good time. And so after she sleeps with him, the Home Alone dad finds out, and he practically almost keels over. Like, he has like this huge meltdown, like when I had to watch Drive Away Dolls, and I did that review. He was like really pissed off. He was like, whoa! Like in Mystery Men, Ben Stiller's character, I can't remember. What was his name? What was his superhero name? I can't remember. But like when he has his big freakouts, like that's his whole superhero character trait, is that he has these like freakouts where he's like, whoa! That's what this Home Alone dad was like, all because she slept with him. And I was like, you know what? He's mad for all the wrong reasons. He's basically mad because he's jealous and because he doesn't want her to be with someone else. But like, he should have been mad because like, what the hell? Like, what was she thinking? Like God, like, ugh. Like, shit. And even worse, guess what happens after that? And what I really liked too was at first there was no hint of any sort of evil stuff going on with the Tom Berenger character, but as soon as she sleeps with him, that's when things start to kind of creep in, and his children, they're outside and they're saying, well, I don't want to play this game, I want to play Zog, which is like a racist term. I'm not going to say what it means, but it's a racist kind of thing. And so she knew from that, like, uh-oh. And after it's how they say after sex, it all goes downhill. And that is what it's like in this movie. It all goes downhill from there. As soon as she lets a terrorist cream pie her, it's all downhill from there. And so I guess the lesson here is that you don't sleep with someone who you suspect of being a white supremacist, killer, psychopath, terrorist. I mean, you don't do that. You don't do that type of thing. Even if you're infiltrating a group and you're trying to be cool and stuff, like, you don't do that unless you absolutely have to. This isn't the 1930s with, like, spies and Nazis and doing that kind of thing. This is with just a guy in the South, And she really was not very good. I mean, she was great at acting. I really loved her performance. But the character was so terrible at, like, not being conspicuous. Like, her character was terrible it being inconspicuous. That's how I should say it. Like, the whole movie, she gave all these hints off to the main guy that, like, something was up with her. And it was so obvious, and it was so funny that he's so stupid that he didn't even know. But anyways, Tom Berenger really wants her to go hunting with him. And she's like, no, I don't want to do that. And he practically got down on his knees and begged her to go with him. And that's when you knew something weird was going to happen. And it was at night, too. So that's another red flag. And what they do is they go in the middle of the woods, and you got all of his friends. I mean, what his best friend practically is this guy named Wes, and he's played by Mr. Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs, and that's another red flag. You don't go in the middle of the woods with Buffalo Bill at 10 o'clock at night. And then they take out this black guy, and they give him a gun with 10 bullets in it, and then they let him run away, and then they get to hunt him down, and he gets to try to kill them and their dog that they use to hunt him. And so it's basically like a really fucked up thing. But what was so funny about this was that it reminded me a lot of that 50 Shades of Grey trailer, where the Mr. Grey is like, and I can't remember exactly what he said, but he's like, I want to show you everything about me. And he opens up that door, and she sees the whole room with all the sex toys and the sex dungeon and shit. And she's like, ooh. And that's exactly what this guy in this movie did. And why can't I remember his name? Gary. He just doesn't look like a... Well, actually, he kind of looks like a Gary. Gary, his excuse for bringing her on this hunting trip is that he wants her to know everything that there is to know about him. He wants her to be, fully involved in his life. And it was just so funny the way that, like, you compare that with, like, just the way that he was so nonchalant about it is like, oh, this is who I am. Like, it's just, we're just doing some cool stuff here. We're fighting back against all the things that I'm not going to say on camera or in real life either. All the quote-unquote bad people. And so they end up killing this guy. And, this movie is also kind of depressing. It's kind of sad. It's kind of dark and just kind of icky. Because, this guy that they hunt down, you never hear about him again. And you think about, like, this probably happens a lot of times in real life. They even talk about it as, like, they get these people, they kill them, they dispose of their bodies, and the FBI people, they say, like, we'll never be able to find any of these bodies. That's the reason why we want you to get these people for killing the radio host, is because we have the radio host's body. And so I thought that's really, really creepy. Like, and so there were elements of this movie that were really, really effective and good. And I don't really want to go through the rest of the movie point by point like Safi would do. But I will just go over a couple more parts and then tell you what overall I thought of the movie. So eventually, all the typical stuff happens in these types of movies where there's a character who has to infiltrate a bad group, and, all the same kinds of things happen. And eventually, it sort of turns into a Red Dead Redemption 2 type of situation where Buffalo Bill, he gets killed at this bank robbery setup, and it all went downhill from there for the main character, the main guy, Gary. And oh yeah, okay, I should talk about this too, because this was also really funny. In addition to, like, I want to show you everything about me, I want you to know everything that there is about me, he starts sharing other things with her, like, he's really involved with the internet, and and by involved with the internet, I mean, like, those old-fashioned, like, 1980s computers that are just, like, complete pieces of shit. And he's like, look at what I'm doing here. Do you know how to use the internet? Do you know how to use computers? And she's like, I just know games and stuff like that. And he's like, check this out. And he just this little fucking green typing, and it's like, we're going to take out the government. We're going to do all this and that. It's like, it's just so pathetic and hilarious that, like, you know, and he's like, yeah, look at me. I'm using the internet. And it was really funny because, like, you know, you bet that a lot of people were like that back then. Like, a lot of these people, too, like these terrorists, they'd be talking about all the stuff that they talked about, these private activities. They'd never talk about that on the internet nowadays, except for, like, privately, you know, but, like, in this instance, they're just, like, openly, like, on the internet, you know, they don't think anyone is watching them. They don't think anyone has got hold of what they're doing on there. So I thought that was funny. And then he's like, okay, we're going to go on a camping trip. And you know what they did? And so they're on the road, and she's with him and his children. And all of a sudden, she gets this horrified look on her face. And this is what I mean by, like, she is not good at hiding the fact that she is a complete narc, or whatever you would call her, whatever. And he's like, oh, it's a camping trip. We're going camping in a sort of way. And then you look and you see these burning crosses, and you see the KKK group meeting and everything with all the white hoods and everything. And she's just like, oh God, like, what are they gonna do here? Like, are they gonna start cannibalizing people or something? Like, this is just horrible. Like, because on one hand, she's really in love with him. But on the other hand, she really hates him and really hates all this stuff that he's doing and all the stuff these guys are doing. And so it's kind of like this emotional tug of war between, like, you know, because he is a very good character in terms of you really feel sorry for him in certain ways. Because, like, you can get the sense that he could have been a good person if not for these beliefs, and if not for this belief that he has to do these horrible things and associate with these horrible people. And that's kind of the feeling that you get from multiple characters, like in his group too. And I just really like the way that this movie portrayed all this stuff in a very realistic and matter-of-fact way. You know, whereas nowadays, you get movies like Black Klansman. Black Klansman had a revisionist history. Black Klansman completely fabricated the story of the movie. They took events that happened in a completely different state, and they put those events in the place where the main character was in, and when in fact the main character never was involved in anything that he was involved in with that movie. And then they put in agendas too. So, like in Black Klansman, Adam Driver's character, he was white in real life, and he was just like a regular Christian guy. Well, because the screenwriters for Black Klansman were Jewish, they made the Adam Driver character Jewish, so that could be like another agenda. Is like, oh, these people are also anti-Semitic, and so that's also a part of, you know, why they're bad. And it's like, yeah, we knew that already. You didn't have to do that. But in this movie, it's just very, very real, even though it's very romanticized and very, like, for the sake of drama and for the sake of, like, movie storytelling, whatever. So I thought that was funny. And anyways, after Buffalo Bill dies, she is really starting to, you know, the whole movie actually, like, in fact, like, the whole movie, after she does literally anything, she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. You know, like, the whole movie, she's like, I want to quit. And then after something else happens, I really want to quit now. And then after something else happens, no, I really, really want to quit. You know, she is the biggest quitter in the universe. So by the end of the movie, things are starting to get serious. Gary has proposed marriage to her, and she has to accept, because it's all being built around this kind of chain of events where it's leading to this hit. And on the internet, they had he printed out like this big list, this big huge like documents, these documents filled with names of people they were going to kill across the country, all sorts of like illegal activities they were doing. And so just as I said, like, you know, they're just printing these things out and hiding them under the floorboards. It's really, really funny. And as if no one could find those. And so she has to be with him for this final hit, and they have to find out who they're going to hit and kill. And then she will help arrest him and arrest anyone else there. And this is the part of the movie where a lot of people online, they said that they really liked most of the movie, but they didn't like this last part. But I thought that this last part was the best part of the movie, because Gary finds out that she is also an informant. And I thought that this part was really good, because you find out before this that, you know, his wife, his first wife, she died. And it's kind of mysterious. It's like, oh, would she die of like diabetes or something? Like, what did she die of? Well, it turned out that she was pregnant, and she got an abortion because she found out about his white supremacist activities, and she didn't want him to have another demon hellspawn in the world. And so then he had Buffalo Bill kill her for him. And I just thought, like, that's really terrible, but also really, really tragic. And it was very, very sad. Just, again, this whole movie was very sad. It wasn't like a happy movie. There wasn't any, like, yeah, we got the bad guys part of the movie. The whole movie was very downbeat, which actually I kind of felt was refreshing. Because nowadays, it's always downbeat for the sake of lecturing us. And it's always downbeat for the sake of, okay, and we have this agenda we have to tell you about how, you know, men are terrible and blah, 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 blah. Or even if it's happy, it's all about the agenda, like in Barbie. You know, oh, the Barbies win, and, you know, but also men are really terrible and all that. We need to commit voter suppression so that men will lose. That's the only way that women can win in the Barbie world, is if they commit voter suppression. And yes, that is what happens in the Barbie movie. They commit voter suppression, and there's the supposed heroes of the movie. It's pretty bad, guys. Like, you know, they were showing at the end of the Birth of a Nation, you know, the KKK, they were standing in front of all the voting booths and with guns, so that black people would be so intimidated they wouldn't go vote. And, like, apparently the women who made Barbie, they thought also that it's a good idea that they do the same thing, but with men. Like, that they commit voter suppression and, you know, make it so that men can't vote. That's their idea of, like, a progressive society. But anyways, just saying. But so after we find out about that, it's really tragic, you know, that we think about, like, you know, she is not going to want to be with him. He's very insecure, too, and he starts to get really, really nasty with her, like, just for doing anything. It's like, you know, he's just so suspicious of everyone and everything because he's so worried about getting caught, or about, you know, getting... whatever. Yeah, just getting caught, I guess you could say. And so he finds out that she is an informant. And this is the part of the movie that I actually really liked, because I really liked watching how he reacted to her after he found out. Because, like, he's a scary guy. Like, I would not want to have to fight Tom Berenger. Like, out of all the actors in Hollywood, like, in terms of, like, if I had to cast them as villains, like, Tom Berenger would be one of the top 5, I would say, where I would just be so intimidated to fight him. Like, I would be really, really, like, not... I'd be really scared, honestly, because he is so scary, and he has such a presence, especially in this movie, where he's really good. He has both sides. He has the really nice side, and he has the really evil side, which was really nice to see, because in Platoon, he was basically just completely evil the entire movie. I mean, he acted like he was good a little bit, but he really, the whole movie, he was pretty damn evil. But in this movie, you know, near the end, he does all these things so that she can't inform the FBI as to the real location of where the hit is going to take place. And so there's this really funny part where she's like, I want to stop and go to the bathroom, and they stop, and she goes inside this diner to make a phone call, and he's standing outside watching her, and it's like, you know, she doesn't know that he knows, but he knows that she knows, and then she goes in the bathroom, and she's trying to write "help me" or something on the stall, and then he comes in, and he's like, hey, do you mind if I use the restroom? The men's one isn't working. And then she has to leave, and then he's like, oh yeah, can you watch guard to make sure that no one else catches me in here? And then when he's in the stall, he sees H-E-L, and he's like, some nitwit was trying to spell hell with only one L. And I just thought that was really hilarious. That was a great moment in the movie. That might have been my favorite scene of the movie, because I just thought it was such an intense and suspenseful sequence, but also really funny and really good. And the movie just, unfortunately, the movie ends very predictably. The main guy, he gets shot. Tom Berenger gets shot by her. But then, I guess kind of the twist is that they had another assassin on standby. And the real reason why they had him go there too was so that she could kill him. And that the FBI would be distracted, and then the other assassin could kill the target. So at the end of the movie, the bad guy wins. I mean, Tom Berenger doesn't win, but the bad guy in general, he wins. And so that's another thing, is, again, this movie's not a happy movie. And now this is where the movie kind of falls apart, I will admit. I mean, the movie fell apart right at the beginning when she slept with him, but it falls apart at the end pretty fast. Because then at the end, when Tom Berenger isn't in the movie anymore, there's literally nothing left to do, you know, because, like, he was the main draw to this movie, you know, her relationship with him, and, you know, she's like, I want to quit, and they're like, but, you know, we can't keep you safe, you know, if you quit, they'll put you in the computer, and I thought that was funny, too. So she quits the FBI, because she's mad she had to kill him, because she loved him, even though he was a psychopathic terrorist. Like, that's another thing. Like, how did she still love him by the end? It's like, what the hell's wrong with you? Like, you've got to screw loose, and this is why there's got to be some research done into these mental health issues in this country. Because, like, how could you still love Tom Berenger's character after the stuff that he was into? I mean, that is just really, really bizarre. Unless you're, like, born and raised in that environment, and you don't know that it's wrong, and you don't know that you shouldn't be involved with things like that. Of course, I think everyone should know by now. But, you know, there aren't people who know. So at the end of the movie, she's just, like, depressed, and that's kind of the weird thing too, is that, you know, those sad sequences in movies where the main character, everyone's sad and they're just moping around and they're just, like, completely depressed. Well, that's how this movie ends. Like, she's just, like, going around the country in the South. she's clearly not over this terrorist being dead, and she's really sad, and she's getting drunk, and she's listening to country music, and it's really, really weird. It reminds me of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where Gwen dies, and then at the end of that movie, he's just an emo queer bait, and he's standing in front of her grave for like a whole month or something. Whole month goes by, or like in Twilight New Moon, where Edward is gone, and she's just sitting in her room all day, and they do the stupid time lapse and shit. But then at the end of the movie, they had this really weird ending that like didn't really make sense to me at all, and I wonder if anyone else, if they've seen it, they could explain it to me. At the end of the movie, she goes back to the racist town. I don't know what town it is, but it's the racist town. They have a church where the person is preaching that like all the people that aren't white or aren't straight and Christian are all the people of are either Cain or Abel, and that they're the people of the other brother or something, and that they've got to fight them or something. It's some weird shit that I don't really give a fuck about, but I mean, because it's just bullshit what he's saying. And she goes back to see his children, to see the terrorist children. The terrorist children, they're already being brainwashed, I mean, it's so funny, too, because, like, a lot of these people, they're so concerned about their children being brainwashed by, like, playing video games and reading Harry Potter and watching movies with a gay character in it once in a while. But then, like, they're brainwashing their children to, like, believe that all this really, really messed up stuff of, like, we need to grow up and kill as many, what's as possible. That's the message that they're teaching their own children. So I just find it ironic that they're also the people who are the most worried about, like, our children are all being brainwashed because they're on TikTok and they play Call of Duty and stuff like that. Like, oh no. They're playing video games. Oh no. So, at the end of the movie, she visits them, and the daughter still likes her, but then the son doesn't. And the mom of the terrorist, she doesn't like her. But, like, I didn't get that ending, because nobody else knew that she was an FBI agent, or at least, I don't know if they did or didn't. They didn't really say. It was just kind of like, oh, they don't like her anymore. I don't know. It was really weird. So the whole town is standing outside the church, and she's hugging the daughter, and she's saying goodbye to her. And then the daughter goes away, and they play this song where it says something like the devil is in the right hand or something, or the pistol is the devil in the right hand. I don't know. It's some weird country song that sounds like something that like a 2-year-old edgy weird fuck would make up. I don't know. I mean, it made no sense at all to me. It was like gibberish at this point. And that's how the movie ended. It was a very strange ending. And I gotta say, this movie was written by the guy who wrote Basic Instinct. He wrote Telling Lies in America, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. But he's really bad at endings. Because the ending of Telling Lies in America was very, very sappy and saccharine. The ending of Basic Instinct, I can't even fucking remember. That movie's very memorable. I mean, especially the part where you see Sharon Stone's you-know-what. I mean, that is very, very memorable. And probably one of the best moments in movie history. But this writer, he really does not know how to write a good ending. Because, like, I did not get that at all. Like, I did not get, like, where is this character gonna go? Apparently she has, like, a southern fetish. And she really just wants to be in the South and be, like, a combine driver. And she wants to, like, listen to shitty country music and drink beer all day and, bring her man a beer. Like, that's what she wants to do for the rest of her life, I guess. like, that's weird. That's what's weird, too, is that, like, it was really hard to just see, like, why she was even on the FBI's side, because, like, there was never any point where we established why she wanted to be FBI. There was only a jumping off point where she was already FBI and she really wanted to be with Gary, the white supremacist terrorist. So that was also kind of a weak point. And overall, I would say this movie was very mixed. But as you can see, I have almost spent an hour talking about this movie, and so that is a good sign, actually, because, like, that shows that there's something to talk about. And in general, I would say the movie left me feeling very, very emotionally drained and feeling very all over the place. And I'm really impressed by, like, you know, these older movies, you know, they're just so good that, like, you know, you watch them and you really have a fulfilling experience. Whereas you watch a movie from nowadays and they go through you in 2 seconds. It's like the difference between a 5-course meal and a snack or something. Or I guess a full meal, like a 3-course dinner or something, and then a snack. So with that being said, even though I didn't think this movie was great, in fact, I thought it was a kind of like, this movie had all the right ingredients to be like an Oscar-winning masterpiece. And it really squandered those ingredients with the story, with this very romanticized story, where they still did. I mean, I know I said that they dealt with the subject material in a matter-of-fact way, but, like, you know, the whole story was very cliche. You know, we've been there, done that with the whole informant story, where, you know, their loyalty is torn because they're really involved with the person that they're supposed to be against. You know, we've seen that story so many times. But still, I'm going to give this movie a pretty good food review, because I think that, you know, people should make more movies like this and also watch movies like this, because they're very full and they're very rich. So I would give this movie a barbecue chicken dinner with barbecue chicken with burnt skin and corn and beans, and also a huge, huge bowl of chocolate, no, actually cookies and cream ice cream. But the ice cream has been melted too much, so it's kind of soupy. So this meal, although it's a huge meal, kind of huge, it's a nice sized meal, especially when you're considering how the children in Palestine are starving to death as we speak. It's a meal of substance, and you know, just like this movie, and also, but it has problems, and it had all the right ingredients, but the ingredients were not properly prepared. And so the meal did not really come out just as you want it to come out, but it still was a full meal, and you can go to bed feeling good. So anyways, please like this video and comment and tell me what you thought of Betrayed, because that's another thing. It's called Betrayed, and it's like, yeah, he kind of deserved it. I mean, it was very sad and very tragic, but I mean, he really deserved it. I mean, these characters were not good people at all. I mean, there's not really many good things you can say about him except for he's nice. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.